Thank you. Okay, there we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the CSTA Iowa virtual chapter meeting. There's lots of new faces, which is very exciting to me, at least. So we appreciate those of you joining us today as panelists to share, because we have two really exciting panels today. So we have members from the Computer Sciences Elementary awardees that are going to share their experience with you. And then we also have panelists that will talk about their experience going through the script process, which helps districts to come up with their K-12 computer science implementation plan. Spoiler alert, it's a requirement that's due in July. So those of you that are here today to learn more, welcome. I want to let all of you know that we are going to be recording to share this out later, so be on your best behavior. Allison and Ren, is there any other information I need to share? No? Okay, well then I'm going to hand it off to you two to kind of give an overview. Sorry, Ren and Aaron, I'm going to hand it over to you to kind of give an overview so folks can make a choice. We're going to let you choose which breakout room you would like to go to, and then we'll come back together to do some wrap up. So how about I invite Ren to go first, since Aaron's our guest. We'll let Ren share about script first, and then she can hand it over to Aaron.
Thank you, Corey. So hi, everyone. I'm the person in the dark room, which it's really not that dark, and I'm sorry it looks that way. I need better lighting, I guess. So I'm Ren Hoffman, and I work for CSforALL, who actually is the creators of Script. And Script is the strategic CS4All resource and implementation planning tool, which is a mouthful. So Script is a lot easier. But like Corey said, it is a tool that helps districts figure out what their K-12 computer science plan is. And the goal is really to help teams of educators collaborate around this. So it's not just the superintendent making a decision and having it be top down, or having independent teachers trying to figure out, well, what am I going to do and how am I going to do this? Where it is a collaboration, a team of people from across the K-12 spectrum who come together and have a bunch of conversations and self-assess around where they are in order to develop this plan and set goals for themselves. And we have with us tonight three folks from districts that have gone through the script process. So you'll get to hear more about their experiences if you join us on our panel. Aaron?
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Aaron Shute, and I, during my day job, I guess, I am a best practices instructional technology coach for Northwest AEA. And recently I have become a co-lead for the Computer Sciences Elementary project that is currently taking place and wrapping up this school year. So bear with me, I'm going to give you the official vision and of the program here. So in 2019, the vision of the Computer Sciences Elementary project was to transform 6 high poverty elementary schools into showcases of outstanding computer science education, including career exploration with employer partners no later than the 2021 school year. Well, that piece of that vision changed. They actually extended it to an additional 6 schools. So there are 13 schools, including Les Hills, that are a part of this Computer Sciences Elementary project. And due to COVID, we extended another year. So we are wrapping up a 3-year project this year. These schools will serve as model schools for the state in terms of computer science implementation at the elementary level. And computer science is a new basic skill in the 21st century, so building a strong foundation early for all students is critical. This will ensure that they are well prepared later in their personal and professional lives, including for a dynamic workforce where a growing number of jobs require computer science skills. So a big component of the Computer Sciences Elementary project is community partnerships. And there was a $50,000 award that went to these schools. So during our breakout today, we'll talk with some of the schools and ask them questions about, in general, about their project, how things are going, and what they have planned for the future.
And spoiler alert, back to Erin, is that she was also a member of the CS Elementary, one of the schools. So you've got
yes.
a very high-powered panel that she's going to be high-powered. But, you know, there's a lot of information in that panel.
Thank you, Ren.
All right, well, thank you to both of you. So we've got our two panels are all set up. We are going to open up the breakout rooms, and you should be able to select for which group you would like to join. And each panel has some questions. They're going to go through their process and just share how implementation winter is going, and then be able to help support you as well. Those rooms should be open now, and then you should be able to select in your Zoom tools at the bottom of your screen which one you would like to join. If you don't see the breakout rooms icon, let me know and I can help you go to the spot that you would like.
All right. So Lindsay, Kristen, and Carol, thank you so much for joining us as our panel and sharing your experiences and what you know, and with those that have joined us in this room. And so you've all heard a little bit about Script, but what I think I'd like to start with is a little background. What made you say, so Lindsay told us a little in her answer, but what made you say, we're going to do Script? Can you tell us a little about when you said, either you heard about it or you heard from another school? How did it come to you and you said, we're ready?
This is Lindsay. Sorry, can't see me, but I'm going to jump in. We heard about it through our AEA, through Kelly and Gertie, and they were big supporters of it. And we had already, like, with our, our whole leadership team and stuff, and we saw the power behind that process and how it really made us identify exactly where we're at and what we needed to do, where we needed to go. And so when the Script process was explained to us as like the SAMI for computer science, our whole team was on board, like, yes, this is what we need. It's been so effective with everything else that we've done with the SAMI that we wanted to jump in and try the Script training as well, and had similar results.
Thanks, Lindsay. Kristen or Carol?
Yeah, I can jump in. We also heard about the opportunity through our AEA, and I knew I needed to write a plan and I wanted a team to do it. So it seemed like a great opportunity to have someone else facilitate the process and use a tool that was already tried. So I didn't have to recreate a wheel or facilitate. I could just participate and have a voice in what was happening. And I think that was one thing that we found really helpful, is the rubrics and tools along the way that helped us evaluate what we currently do and identify areas where we need to improve.
I think the reason that we decided that Script training was appropriate for us, we have just started a curriculum review where we separated out computer science from math. It's always been part of our math curriculum review. And so in the beginning process of that curriculum review, we realized we need to make a plan and have it be more than just a curriculum review. There were definitely additional components to this curriculum review that aren't typical in other content areas. Like Lindsay had mentioned, we asked our AEA friends to be our external partners in our curriculum review, and they're the ones who brought up and said, hey, there's actually a training that you can go through that will help broaden this a little bit more than just what you're teaching in your classes, and thought that that would be a really great fit so that we can make that comprehensive plan rather than just focusing on materials and resources.
Thank you all. And you all bring up a really good point that I want to make sure you understand, that the process is facilitated. Script is something that it is a training of sorts that you attend. And so there is someone that helps you walk through the process, so you're not, you might be going through the process with other districts. It might be just your district alone. But either way, there is someone asking questions and prompting and supporting you along the way. So it is, I think Kristen said that it's not, she wasn't doing it alone. So thank you all. How did you get admin on board? So I know, Carol, you're in a unique position because and I apologize, are you your district level, right? You said you're the I'm
the director of curriculum innovation. So yeah, I'm at the district office level.
Right. So so maybe Lindsay, and I know Lindsay, you're in a unique situation as well, but if Kristen and Lindsay, if you guys could jump in first and share about how you got administration, especially at the district level, on board.
Yeah, so for Postal, we got the Computer Sciences Elementary grant, and because we had, teacher buy-in and administrative support for that grant and teaching computer science, there was, at the elementary level, there was no problem getting administration on board with doing this script training and realizing that it was a need that we had and it was only going to make us better. And we did, I wouldn't say run into trouble, but we did struggle more with getting our high school administration on board because we teach a computer science class in the high school and in the middle school, but I teach both of them. And so it doesn't affect a lot of other people over there. And so there wasn't as much buy-in, I guess, over there. But because it was taught in all of our elementary classrooms over in the elementary building, it was, the administration was fully on board wanting to do that. I kind of had to push and shove a little bit to get my high school administration to not support it, but just be participate in it and have them understand that it was a good use of their time as well.
In our case, we are a smaller district. We have about 650 kids, K-12, and I work both of our building principals with them closely. So it was pretty easy for me to say, hey, you need to be involved in this. Maybe something that's unique is that both building principals went through the CS modules that were required in preparation for the course. We had one administrator actually participate in the training fully, but both completed the modules, which is a win in our case. We convinced them that it was important for them to fully understand computer science, especially since they had to be knowledgeable in evaluating it. So it wasn't a hard sell in our case, but that may be due to our district size too.
Thank you. And Carol, I'm going to invite you to chime in because you're in a very large district compared to the others. So can you tell us a little about pulling your team together and getting the rest of getting everyone else on board?
Yep. So, I mean, for our district, it was easy, obviously, to get district office personnel because I'm in charge of that. So, of course, I'm going to be there. It was then important for us to make sure that we had representation from our different grade bands. So I have 10 elementary buildings. So just meeting with that PLC and talking to them about sort of what our plan for computer science is and sort of what that legislation piece is, which I hate sometimes to use legislation as the reason for doing something. But in our case, it really helped people understand that this isn't something that's going to go away. It's not like a Carol idea that we're just going to try to do this computer science thing. It's like we're going to need to embed this somewhere, and how do we want to do that? And if you'd like to be part of the plan, then being part of script training will help us make sure that your voice is heard, and that the perspective of your elementary buildings is present in our meetings. So, and I think the same thing happened for my 6-7 friends because the plan is to take one of their current exploratory wheel classes and utilize that for computer science. The same thing for my 8-9 friends. And then the nice thing, I guess, for me on the 10-12 side, we already teach a number of computer science courses. I only have 3 teachers, but we have a lot of kids who take computer science who are very interested in computer science. So it was actually much easier for me to get my high school friends on board than my elementary friends.
Thank you all. I know especially coming from the seat I sit on, that there is an expectation that when you bring a team to a script workshop, that they expect a district administrator, a building level administrator, a computer science teacher who is either teaching computer science or will teach computer science, and then at least one other either instructional or non-instructional person. So a guidance counselor and a librarian, another teacher, another administrator, but bringing that right mix of people so that all voices are represented is so important. So thank you all for sharing that. Can you tell us what let's start what went well. What went well with the script training and you're building your CS plan? Or let me back up. Did any of you finish your CS plan as a result of the script workshop?
Well, I'm happy to talk. So do you want to answer both questions? Like what went well and finish?
Sure.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So what went well, there were a couple things. That industry panel is like the best part of script training. We absolutely loved it. We have made connections with those people that were on the industry panel to help sort of inform our work as we go through not only curriculum review, but even some of the script even some of the pieces of our plan that came out of script is here, hey, look at this. Does this even look viable? So we've been able to tap into those people. So I would say that part went really well. I think the other part that went really well was just understanding the different facets other than curriculum that we will need to focus on as a district. We've got a team to focus on the curriculum piece, right? We've got our curriculum review team. We've got all of our teachers that are scheduled to help with that process. But we would have missed quite a few different components when you think of a comprehensive computer science plan without having that script training piece there. And so that really helped us dive into what kind of community partnerships can we have? How are we partnering with families? How are we communicating all of those different ideas? So I mean, I feel like just even the components and then us sitting down and having those conversations as a larger group has really helped inform our work. Did we finish a plan? Well, technically, yes. But we've already met twice so far this semester to revisit that plan because we really didn't get down to the nitty gritty and some of the logistics that actually need to happen in some of our action steps. So we really came out with some broad ideas, some goals, and then some, I would call them larger components of things that we want to make sure that are happening. But we didn't get to the pieces of like a really great timeline. And then also thinking about all the logistics that might need to happen and go into each of those pieces. So we have periodic meetings already scheduled for this year. To continue to refine so that by the time we're done with this year, we'll be able to have a good plan to be able to turn into the state. So we got the major work done this summer, but then have needed to follow up to just dive in a little bit deeper into all of our action steps and then make sure our timeline is realistic. Some of the things that we picked to do and the timelines we chose this summer were not realistic. So we've had to back up and then make sure that we've really done a better job of thinking some of those things through.
I got to unmute.
Okay,
Thank you.
So I would, I would jump in and just kind of piggyback off of that. Yes, we finished our plan, I would say, but I don't know if it's finished, but not in final draft. We still have some things we need to go back to and look at again. I mean, it seems like when we started with our computer sciences elementary plan had some of these things already scripted out. And then every semester, every year, things have changed or we've tweaked them a little bit. And I think that's the way this plan has been still going for us too. We did finish that plan, but I can already, looking at it again, I can already know that there's some changes that are going to be made before that gets submitted here. And is it July, in the next summer when all those things come in? So I think pinpointing some of the very specific action steps that we were looking at were we're going to have to go back and I think we're going to do that script reconnect that our AEA is offering and come back and look at those things again, because things change as we're moving along. We're growing and getting better.
For us, in addition to the rubrics, what went well for us, there was an activity early on in the process that morning that really forced some choices for us and then allowed us to align our vision for what computer science should be. And that was really important for our team because they were all coming from different sections of the building with different backgrounds and ideas. So that was pretty helpful to help align our work and make sure we were on the same page before we got started. As far as our plan goes, we do have a plan like everybody else for this year. And we have met monthly, if not twice a month since then, to continue working on that. And I envision that getting refined as the year goes on too, before we have to submit officially.
Thank you all. And I only asked about the plan because, if we're using script as not as a motivation, if we're using the expectation that you'll have a plan by July 2022 as a motivation to participate in script, then it's important to say, well, can we realistically come up with something if we go through this? So I would say it's a resounding yes. How refined it is and how close it is to done, depending on when you go through script, it might have revisions. But I would also just chime in and say that a K-12 CS plan, CS is changing so rapidly that you're not going to finish it. It's not a document that you turn into a PDF and put on a shelf. It's probably something that's going to grow and morph. But tell us then about, were there difficulties or what didn't go well with script? I'll open it up kind of in the opposite of what I did with the last question, either with the plan or the script workshop. What was difficult?
For us, I think the thing that was the most difficult, and I kind of alluded to this earlier when I was talking about the difference in how computer science works in our elementary building versus our high school building. We had difficulty narrowing down or being very specific about where we fell because our elementary was very strong in some areas and it was not as strong in the junior high and high school. And so it was hard to decide, well, do we fall, where do we fall in this training? There was a lot of really good discussions about how the elementary world and the high school world are very different. And it was great to have the representation and the voices. So I think elementary teachers needed to hear the high school teachers' perspective on the things that were going on. And I think it was also good for the high school teachers to hear and see what kinds of things are going on in the elementary building too, so they know where the kids are coming from.
For us, there wasn't any necessarily difficult part of the process itself. We chose to join by Zoom during a face-to-face training, and that blended format was really hard for us because we weren't ever quite sure if we were hearing things right. We didn't have all the paper resources that they had face-to-face. And there were times that it was just hard to track what was happening in the live room while we were on Zoom. So, if we have an opportunity, again, we'll try to go or bring somebody to us that can just work with our team, I think.
We had a similar issue Zoom wise. I had brought our team together into a room, but the people who were delivering the training were via Zoom. So then it just doesn't work very well. I would suggest, if you're going to do it, either commit to everyone's who's going to be there in person or commit to everybody's going to be on their own computer via Zoom, because trying to do it sort of a hybrid way, there were just too many issues with documents and trying to make sure we all got the right stuff and heard the right things. So I'd pair that. I think the only other thing that is definitely not a negative, but was a struggle for us is all the people in the room are there because they're passionate about computer science. And so they want to make changes now. And in a district of 12,500 students, I can't upset the master schedule of the middle school right now, and we're going to change it next year, right? I mean, they want to go now. And so getting people to realize that, hey, in order to move this system, we're going to have to back up just a little bit and make sure that we do some foundational pieces and that we do some communication. And that was a little bit more difficult because they're either used to being in their own classroom when they can sort of change on a dime, or even in their own building when they've had some of their own autonomy. But trying to think about it as a district was a little bit difficult for some of my friends who were with us. And then trying to really back map all of the things that really need to happen for that to actually help our system.
Thank you, everyone. Well, Corey's letting us know we've got 5 minutes left. So I want to give the folks listening a chance to ask questions. If you've got questions for our panel about their experience with script, or I suppose as it morphed into their implementation plan. So you can either drop it in the chat or unmute yourself.
We're planning on going through the standards with everybody, and I'm a little hesitant about that just because I know our elementary teachers will be on board, and we had a great team. We had somebody from all different levels. We had 6 of us there, including admin. So it was wonderful, but now I'm a little leery of presenting to the rest of the staff. And I'm thinking especially of our high school teachers who say, I don't teach computer science. I'm the language arts teacher, and I don't have anything to do with this because I'm teaching something else. So I'm wondering if you've come across any of that or have any tips and hints for that.
I don't know that I have any tips or hints for it, but I will tell you that in our unpacking of the computer science standards, the numbers of times where people have mentioned, oh, this is so similar to what we do in literacy, or this is so similar to what we do in social studies, or this is something we want all kids to know. And if we could make this something that they just experience throughout all of our courses, that would be really beneficial for kids so they don't have to code switch between our different classes and we're all talking the same language. So I wonder if those are just maybe points that you bring up to those teachers, or if you even have examples. Here's a literacy standard. Here's the computer science standard. See how similar they are. Or here's a digital citizenship kind of thing that we're trying to do in all of our classes regardless, and it is a computer science standard. Or you might have always been doing this in social studies, but look, it's a computer science thing. So I wonder if just even some examples of how they do sort of intermix with one another might help.
Thanks.
I would echo that too. I had 3 instructional coaches in our team, and none of them are passionate about computer science, but they were making the same comments as we went along and pointing out specific examples from classrooms where they saw teachers going through a procedure or working algorithms or writing directions. And they were making those connections automatically and thinking of ways they could go back and help the teacher tie computer science into what they were already doing and not making it one more thing. So if you have some instructional coaches or someone else in your building that can help make that bridge, I think that would be helpful.
We had those discussions in our group. A lot of the elementary people on our team commented those same things that you were saying, that, oh yeah, we're already doing this. So I think it's going to be easy with the elementary teachers. It's just the high school teachers where I was a little bit concerned about getting everybody on board.
I feel like whenever you can emphasize that computer science is not just coding, that's helpful, because I do think people jump right to, oh, it's coding and I don't code in my class, right? So even some of the unplugged activities, like I know there were a few during script training that they took us through, and that even helps open your eyes to the kinds of processes or routines you put into your class.
And I'm going to chime in here, Chris, that even sharing a little bit about how you came up with your vision as a team, and that it's not just, one levels or one group, this elementary school or this group of people, that it was that this team, explaining to them who sat on this team and how it was discussions, K-12 that might help, that it's not just these people, or this group of people might help say, oh, so people were thinking about us when these decisions were made and conversations were had. Other questions? So they are going to let us go another couple minutes. Let's see. How about sharing? You guys have addressed this a little bit, but can you tell us a little more specifically about the work that has happened since the workshop? So several of you have mentioned that you've revisited the goals, that goals were too lofty, or things like that. Can you tell us a little bit, which is very common, and especially, Carol, as you said, you've got a group who are so gung-ho and ready to go. But even when there's a group, Kristen, like yours, where maybe everyone isn't that CS champion, and so setting those goals gets a little more difficult, because how much can we really accomplish? And you need to revisit those, but I'm talking too much. So do you guys want to share what kind of work you've done since the workshop specifically?
I don't know who wants to go first. I'll go first. So I will tell you that after our first meeting, after script training, we sort of refashioned which would be our priorities for this year, because we were trying to figure out what we could really accomplish. And because we knew we were in curriculum review, we prioritized those pieces. So we've really spent the majority of this year so far unpacking standards, trying to make sure that everybody understands what those standards mean. It's easier for my high school friends because they all have computer science backgrounds, right? They all have degrees in computer science. And so they're able to unpack those standards and be able to just quickly spout off things that are in a completely different language to me and have no idea what they're talking about half the time. But my elementary friends really need some assistance in unpacking what does that really look like in a classroom? What does that really mean? And so we've really leaned heavily on our AEA friends. So Marissa Dahl has been phenomenal in providing professional learning for the teachers who will need to be implementing this and helping them unpack standards and figure out what this all means for them. So we spent a lot of time doing that. I think the other thing that we have talked about is we've spent a lot of time refashioning what courses we will offer at our high school level. So I've mentioned that we have quite a few different courses, but when we did our internal audit, we found out that most of our courses are all in programming. And so we've spent some time researching and then figuring out that really, instead of having sort of this one facet of lots of different programming languages, let's really create 3 strands to better prepare our students for any of their post-secondary options. So we're moving to a strand of programming, but just programming 1 and 2 now, instead of all these different kinds of programming languages. We'll have one on web design, and then we'll have another one on cybersecurity. So like those are our 3. And we've sent that out to our industry friends to be able to have them look at that and tell us, is this what you need from us in order to make sure that they're able to join your industry when we're done, or to pursue a college education afterwards. And we've gotten some really great feedback from them. I would say the biggest problem that we're experiencing right now is my teachers have great programming background. They don't have a lot of background in web design or cybersecurity. So now trying to figure out, okay, well, what standards even go into these courses? How do I teach these courses? Like that's where we're having to do a lot of research on our own now, of trying to figure out what really happens in those courses when we just don't have a large background in them.
I was going to add on to that too. I was thinking as you were talking, as we're coming back into ours and starting to plan and work on things, and going back to
meeting again and chatting about where we're at, it's come up that in our high school courses, and our high school teachers, I guess, getting them involved in this, it's those industry partners, the business partners for the computer sciences elementary grant and stuff. Really, that's kind of our in for getting our high school teachers on board with wanting to do more with this. And we talked about, as a K-12 team looking at it, creating, there's a PD out there, it's called the Portrait of a Graduate, and trying to bring that in and see if we can get the people, all the high school teachers and elementary teachers too, just on board. You know, what is our end goal for as these kids come to us in kindergarten, by the time they leave as 12th graders, what are we looking for? What do they need? And talking to, you know, like you said, those industry and business partners and stuff, and knowing, having teachers realize that this is the key element that they're going to need, and try to, you know, get them on board and try to push more for the computer science standards, just because that's what's out there. That's what the kids are going to need.
In addition to what these guys have already mentioned, one thing we're doing that isn't necessarily aligned with our plan is we got together just to plan activities for Hour of Code Week and to promote Computer Science Week K-12, to do something that we make sure every kid gets an experience. So that's it for us.
All right, we are just about out of time. The rooms are going to close in a few seconds. So thank you all. Thank you, panel, for sharing. And thank you all for joining us in this panel.
All right, welcome back, everyone. So we had a couple of minutes set aside for us to be able to cross share. So if we could have a couple people from, let's start with the script panel. I'm going to share out what were some of your big takeaways or things you learned for the CS's elementary folks that you think that they should know.
Come on, scripters. We were a chatty group when we were in there.
After listening to the panel, does anyone have action items of things they want to do once they're back in their schools?
All right, well, I'm going to chime in then, since no one else is talking. What I think it was a great conversation, and we really ran the gamut of assembling the team and making sure those right people were in the room, and how for some of them it was really easy, or it was difficult for the elementary side and difficult for the high school, or vice versa. It's different at each level, but that it's also all three of the schools, all three of the districts had a different experience. So there's not, every district going through it is not going to have the same experience. They're going to use the same tools, but it's going to look very different. And then what happens afterwards, again, looks different based on goals they've set. So I would say, I'm going to say that, you know, there could be to-dos from contacting your AEA consultant to see about the script workshop, to seeing who in the school might be part of the team. We talked a little about who the participants of the team would be. So I think there's some real low-hanging fruit that people can start with, because as Corey mentioned in the beginning, that July 2022 implementation plan is going to come be here before we know it. So reaching out to your AEA consultant, and if you don't know who that is, I'm going to put it back on Corey that she can put you in touch with that person.
Yeah, the other caveat, I would say, yes, please contact any of us on the CSTA board. We'll get you in touch with your AEA person. The other thing that is top of mind for us is also the high school requirement comes due in July, but we know high schools are starting to build schedules now. So if you're in that position in your district and your district's not engaging, tap the shoulder of a person that you know, because honestly, that's my biggest concern is I don't want districts to come to script in April and be like, our schedule's done. So the AEAs are working really hard to do another push to encourage folks. So spread the word to your educator friends that if their district isn't engaged, we're trying to help them. We want everybody to be on track and not be playing catch up later this year.
Corey, with that, I think one of the pieces of feedback I've heard from districts is concerns about like subs and being able to get enough subs to attend the workshop just to get the ball rolling. What are some of the solutions the AEAs offer in order to support that?
I'm going to encourage you again to contact your AEA person because I don't want to speak out of turn.
Yeah.
Because every AEA is doing something a little bit different based on those consultants. But what I can tell you is we're all very aware of the subs shortage and doing everything we can to meet district needs. So please let us know. Bridget on the call and I are at Grant Wood. We're going in and meeting with districts on their PD days, or AEAs are doing everything they can to support districts and make it easy. So reach out to your person. Yep. And Tyler at Northwest just put in the chat what they're doing. So I just say, I think reach out to them and know that we will help you. There's also 20 of us in the state of Iowa that are trained script facilitators. Ren would be one. We have some STEM hub managers also. So I believe Samantha Dalby is still a trained script facilitator. So we've got also people outside of the AEA that could help you. So reach out. If you ask for help, you're going to get help. It's a Corey Rogers guarantee.
Perfect. All right, anything else from script? All right, let's turn it over to the CS's elementary folks. Any key takeaways from that group? Things you've learned? Both all quiet on a Thursday night. It's dark, it's cold.
I'll talk.
Thanks, Bridget.
And Corey's like, yes. It was a really great panel. I am new to AA, just coming out of the elementary classroom. So for me, I think some takeaways from hearing from the panel were, I had lots of little notes, but just the integration component. I know that what we're hearing from school districts is that elementary lens of like, how do we do that and not one more thing? So hearing all of the panelists really talk about the integration and how they've been able to be successful with that. And once they got things going, it started to grow and grow with other educators in their buildings. They're making some blueprints. I know that's like really exciting to have some exemplars and some blueprints. And one of the great questions was like challenges, but then the positives. So hearing those kinds of things. And I know it was Darren, I believe, said that a local business said that we need to plant the seed of computer science and employability skills at the elementary, because otherwise we won't get them at the high school. And I've always felt that as an early childhood elementary educator. So it's awesome to hear that business partners feel that way too, and could help build that capacity.
It's great. Thank you for sharing that, Bridget. I am going to turn it over to Ren, if you're all right with that. And we have at our last, is it September or October session, we started talking about CS's equity. And just said one of our commitments for this year, our goals is to be able to keep coming back to this theme and being able to look through. So we've got look at how this applies. So we have a Jamboard link that I'm going to post, and then Ren, I'll let you start us off with that, if that's okay.
Yeah, I just posted the Jamboard, so I've had it on in my clipboard for the whole session. But we wanted to make sure we talked about equity and made sure it was something that was part of the conversation all the way through, because it is a part of computer science, just at its, the guts of computer science. And so what we did, if you go ahead and go to that Jamboard, what we did last time was or what our plan is, maybe I'll present it that way. There are standards about equity. And so the link takes you to, what is it? Slide 4, it looks like. I don't have my glasses on, I can't see that. But what we're doing is asking you to take a look at the standard and think about, if you page to the next screen, is to add your thoughts about what does this mean, look like, impact? How does this connect to you? How does this standard connect to you and what you're teaching, what you're learning, what you heard tonight? If you're not in a classroom, how does this connect to your work? And so what I'd ask is that it's actually, there's space to put your stickies on the next slide. So the standard 2 is equity and inclusion. So effective CS teachers proactively advocate for equity and inclusion in the CS classroom. They work towards an intentional, equity-focused vision to improve access, engagement, and achievement for all their students in CS. And so there's 2 indicators: examine issues of equity in CS and minimize threats to inclusion. So what does that look like for you? If you go to the next page, if you want to add sticky notes, there's that panel. If you've never used a Jamboard before, there's that panel on the left side, and I believe it's the 5th one down, the one in the middle. It looks like just a little sheet of paper that's a sticky note. And add a sticky note and add your thoughts. How is this happening in your classroom? How does it happen? If you're, I'm going to pull out a role that I know is in the room, is on the call, is if you're a curriculum director, how does your work connect to this? How does, are you thinking about this? So I'm going to zip my lips for a minute and let you guys think and put your ideas on the Jamboard. These are some great thoughts. I love that someone connected it back directly to script. And I love the idea of, are there courses that are, especially at the high school level, that they're offered only when, for example, band is offered. So you automatically are excluding a group of students. And female recruitment, always a struggle. What happens, so I would challenge the group back to think about this. You've got a female in your room. Maybe you've got just one female. What's happening in your classroom to make sure she feels included? And that she's not going to say too many boys, or the teacher is teaching, maybe all the examples are football and she's into art and theater. So what are you doing to keep that female once you get her in your classroom? And so someone made a comment of making students aware of bias first, what it might look like. And so I wonder, you don't have to, but you're welcome to chime in. Is that a lesson? Is it something you actually walk through with the students? Do you have something created? Because I know people on the call would say, share, tell me, let me learn. How do you do this? Help.
I know in another professional development opportunity that I'm doing right now, bias has been brought up a lot, and just acknowledging your own bias and maybe presenting it in that way. Like, yes, as your teacher, I have biases towards X, Y, and Z, and just making it a human thing that we need to be aware of. And I don't know what age group that happens with. I would assume older students, but I think, because I think that's a hard thing to ask students to think about. So maybe turning it back onto yourself, and having that conversation with them from your perspective.
I'm going to piggyback off of Erin. I joined, CSTA had a culturally responsive instruction with the holidays, and I participated in that, and I'm pretty sure they recorded it, but it talked about the same thing, and the two presenters had that's how they introduced themselves, was just how they with some identity markers. And then through that lens, they bolded certain ones that kind of spoke to them and their identity and how that might be their lens in life. And it was socioeconomic and spirituality and all sorts of things. And saying, knowing their lens first helped them realize that then we need to, know where we're coming from, but then also to be open to, just because our power words or our power identity pieces aren't the same. And we had a discussion even how you even introduce that with the littles, not just the big kids, about celebrating different holidays and thinking about the biases and cultural diversity and allowing those conversations to happen naturally, and then incorporating them with different computer science activities. I'd highly recommend it.
So I'm going to add one more idea, or I guess it's two ideas. CS Ed Week is coming up soon. And one of the things that they are doing a huge push around is I'm going to say it wrong, Corey, CS Hero posters. Is that?
I don't have that link ready yet, Ren.
Oh, okay.
No, it's okay. No, it's
cool. Up on the CS Ed Week.
Yeah.
So they're doing CS Hero posters with regular people, different cultures, different jobs. Oh, look, someone threw it up there. Oh, Corey did. So that is a way. So I saw on some of the sticky notes, bringing examples of females in CS, letting them see, because how can they be something they can't see? But the other thing is, with CS Ed Week, there are other activities going on. There's an activity going on each evening or afternoon that might, oh, look, you put mine up there.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to say something.
Anyway, there are these posters, and then there are activities coming up in CS Ed Week that might, like the KPOR Center and folks who are going to be sharing that you might find some resources there as well. So thank you for participating in the equity activity.
Yes, it's phenomenal. So thank you all. It's also a nice segue into part of the CS Ed Week resources from CSTA around helping kids research and create CS Hero posters. Similar to all the things you put on the Jamboard in Iowa, a request that I get pretty regularly is, I want to show diverse computer scientists to my kids. How do I find them in Iowa? So please, please, please share this link out with professionals, with other educators. And we're encouraging folks to have the students make them too. Kids can be CS heroes already in Iowa. So you'll see Ren's poster there. Steve Davis is a business partner we have that's already created a poster. So what we're trying to do is create a large repository of Iowa computer science heroes. As soon as we've got a folder full, we're going to share that folder out with you through the AEAs and through CSTA Iowa. So this link right here is the really important one, because there are two ways for folks to participate. There's a Google slide deck where you can make your own poster. It has directions. We also recognize that many companies, because of security reasons, don't use Google. And so there's also in the forum a spot for professionals to submit all their information. And then someone from CSTA Iowa or the AEAs will create a poster and share it back. So please, please, please share this out to folks because we'd love to be able to have this. Also, I don't have mine handy, but any of you that went to the national conference virtually last summer, you got that deck of 52 influential women in CS. We are hoping to make a Iowa deck, but that would require us to have 52 posters. And I think we're at 10 or 11 right now. So please make your own, first of all, because every single one of you on the call is a Iowa CS hero. And then also please share this so that we can spread the word. So we'd love to have posters for you all to pull from. The other thing that I shared in the chat, because I had that one ready, not the one, of course, that Ren segued to so beautifully. So I'm sorry, Ren, is CSTA Iowa is offering license renewal credit for you to do things like attend this meeting. Ren is doing it and Dan is doing it. You can sign up until tomorrow. So if you're going to attend virtual meetings with us or virtual meetings with CSTA, like the one Bridget mentioned would count, we're trying to make it easy for you to get a license renewal credit that's connected to computer science. So yeah, Ren said do it. The link takes you to an article that has a list. We'd love to have you join us. We also know that this year's bonkers, so know that Allison and I intend to offer this again next year. So put a pin in it. If you can't do it this year, you'll have another chance. But tomorrow's the last day to sign up. And then you have until, I don't know, May or June.
I was thinking May, maybe.
We're going to help you pass. So
Make
you've
sure
got
you
until June to make it work. So just let us know. And then we want to, past 8. So sorry. Thank you to the panelists who joined us. We really appreciate you sharing your expertise and your time with us. And thanks to the members for showing up. We do not have a meeting in December. We give you the gift of time to celebrate whatever you celebrate with whoever you love. So please enjoy that break, and then we will see you back in January. Have a good night, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you all.
I am interested in the renewal credit, so I have that tab open.
Yes.